Today we're looking at Sherman's March to the Sea. Hello, welcome to the Daily Bellringer. Please don't forget to subscribe and take a look at the questions down in the description. After the capture of Chattanooga, Tennessee in late 1863, Ulysses S. Grant was promoted to General-in-Chief of the entire Union Army and ordered all Union commanders to begin pressing the Confederates in spring of 1864. As Grant began his overland campaign against Robert E. Lee in Virginia, Grant's old friend General William Tecumseh Sherman began a campaign moving from Chattanooga, Tennessee towards Atlanta, Georgia. Sherman had been with Grant at Shiloh and Vicksburg and was one of Grant's most trusted generals. Atlanta was an important railroad hub and one of the few manufacturing centers for the Confederates. Its capture would greatly hurt the Confederate cause. Facing Sherman was General Joseph Johnston and the Confederate Army of the Tennessee. Sherman had an army of over 100,000, while the Confederate Army numbered barely 50,000. In May of 1864, Sherman began his march towards Atlanta. Continually flanking the outnumbered Confederates, Sherman steadily made progress towards the city, with several battles taking place between May to the end of June 1864. The Battle of Kennesaw Mountain took place on June 27th, in which Sherman thought he had stretched the Confederates out enough to attempt a direct assault, but the battle was a Confederate victory, with the Union suffering 3,000 casualties compared to barely 1,000 for the Confederates. The setback, though, did not deter Sherman, as he kept the pressure on, and tired of defeat after defeat, Confederate President Jefferson Davis replaced General Johnston in charge of the Confederates with General John Bell Hood that Davis felt would be much more aggressive. However, this was not enough to stop the Union, as the Union defeated the Confederates at the Battle of Atlanta on July 22nd. The Union now laid siege and started fighting around the city of Atlanta, just pushing closer and closer to the city. And on September 2nd, 1864, Union troops marched into the city after retreating Confederates had set fire to warehouses and ammunition storages. Sherman's capture of Atlanta had an important political result, as it gave President Lincoln the push he needed to win his second term in office over former General George McClellan that was running on a peace platform. Now Sherman was going to embark on one of the most famous campaigns of the war that would absolutely devastate Georgia and the Confederacy. Sherman's march to the sea began on November 15, 1864. Sherman, along with about 60,000 troops, began marching southeast from Atlanta towards Savannah, Georgia. On this march, Sherman adopted what is known as a total war strategy, or a scorched earth campaign. Anything and everything that could possibly aid the Confederacy was destroyed. Sherman felt that the Confederacy was surviving primarily because of the support of civilians, so he wanted to make life as miserable as possible for civilians so that they would demand an end to the war. In a telegram to Ulysses S. Grant before the march began, Sherman said, "I can make this march, and I can make Georgia howl." Sherman's troops marched south in two wings about 30 miles apart, which cut a path of destruction about 60 miles wide across the state of Georgia. They tore up railroad tracks, wrapped the rails around trees. These became known as Sherman neckties. They burnt homes, they burnt barns, they freed enslaved people as they marched. And although, interestingly, many of the buildings that were burnt during Sherman's march were actually burnt by Confederates themselves as they fled, as they did not want the Union getting their hands on any supplies that were inside. Union troops also took any food they could find, killing livestock and stripping the fields. As the Union marched, you could view their path by Sherman's sentinels, or the chimneys of homes that had been burnt, as this was all that was left. On December 21st, 1864, Sherman's army arrived at the undefended city of Savannah, Georgia. Sherman sent President Lincoln a telegram stating, "I beg to present you as a Christmas gift the city of Savannah." From Savannah in early 1865, Sherman began marching north through South Carolina towards Charleston, wreaking just as much havoc as he had in Georgia. In fact, Sherman basically said South Carolina was where secession began, and he was going to do 10 times worse to them than he did in Georgia. In all, the March to the Sea caused over $100 million in property damage. That's in 1864 dollars. And it left 300-mile-long, 60-mile-wide path of destruction, and it split the Confederacy in two again and broke the will of many Southerners to fight and truly brought the Confederacy to its knees. So with that, hopefully you learned something, and thanks for watching.